Welcome to the AFR Saints channel, where we provide you daily content on your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to leave your comments below and smash that like button. Who dat? The Saints injury report is out, the first injury report here of Panthers week, and it is a bit lengthy. As you might expect, coming off the season opener, some of this we already knew. Let's just run through it very quickly. Let's hear some of what Sean Payton had to say today. Quan Alexander did not practice, elbow. Marcus Davenport with the shoulder injury also did not practice. Same for Tano Passanio with a calf injury. Marshawn Lattimore did not practice with a hand injury. Eric McCoy out with the calf injury. Trevor Siemian did not practice due to illness. Pete Werner did not practice due to a hamstring injury. PJ Williams got the day off because of a back injury. CJ Gardner-Johnson and Chase Hansen both were limited. Chauncey with the knee and Chase Hansen with a groin injury. So that is a pretty lengthy. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 players on the injury report. My guess is quite a bit of that is just veterans getting a day off, nursing injuries, no need to rush back, travel, of course, from Fort Worth to Jacksonville, back to Fort Worth, then to Carolina. Really a difficult week. You want to make sure guys are healthy and ready to roll for Sunday. But it does look like they're not going to have Eric McCoy and obviously Marshawn Lattimore as well. Jameis Winston, as we speak right now, is meeting with the media. Mike Triplett, our friend from ESPN.com, just tweeted this a moment ago. Jameis Winston talking about McCoy. While there's been no timetable specified, said they're going to miss him. Says he knows McCoy will be in Cesar Ruiz's ear helping him out. Said it helps that he worked with Ruiz at center so much last summer. Of course, when Jameis was running as a backup and Ruiz was the backup center. So those two have a little bit of that rapport there. But that essentially does confirm that McCoy will be out, which we kind of knew. The question was, would Ruiz stay at center? Would he go to right guard? And they'd have a backup in at center. But it looks like they're going to go with what they went with mid-game, which is Ruiz at center, Throckmorton at right guard. Now, a couple of other things that Sean Payton talked about today when he met with the media. First of all, he did keep like two, please. He did give an update on the COVID situation, which became a big news item a day ago with 8 members of the Saints organization testing positive.
There's a group of offensive coaches, along with our nutritionist, one player that have tested positive, and all are vaccinated. So the protocol obviously is enhanced with the team and the staff, and that's part of it. And then those that have tested positive, like everyone else, test daily now, and they're going to need 2 negative tests essentially before they can be back in the building and working. And we don't know the timing or the time frame on that, but they're all offensive coaches. I said to Pete today and Ronald and Zach, I said, it's like Ted Lasso, the 3 or 4 of us. The rest of them are all up in their hotel rooms, and they're doing the best they can with preparation, and yet we meet today, for instance, in bigger groups than spread out, but we're meeting with the receivers and the running backs and the quarterbacks as opposed to breaking out into those subgroups, just kind of covering the information.
Dynamite Ted Lasso drop in there as well by Sean Payton. So it is Carolina week, and one of the gigantic fears that I have this week with this game is there's 2 factors at play. Number one is just the letdown factor. You get sky high, you play this incredible game, you're an underdog and you blast Green Bay 38-3. Now all of a sudden you're the toast of the town. You've put everybody on alert. How do you avoid getting the big head and having the letdown when you got to go on the road again now in a division game against Carolina, who's got to have a little confidence after their Week 1 win over the Jets? Here was Sean Payton talking about this Panthers team compared to the one that was year 1 a season ago under Matt Rule.
Look, they had a good win last week, and I would say on both sides of the ball and in the kicking game, there's some similarities, and yet there's some dramatic differences. Man, they played fast last week. I thought it was a physical game for them. Defensively, they've added a few pieces, in the offseason and free agency. It was good defense a year ago, and I think it's a better defense this year just after, seeing the game against New York. Offensively, it's a significant change at quarterback when you have a starter that's different. McCaffrey's healthy. It's always a battle when you play a division opponent like this, and, they're coming off a big win, so it's an important game.
A giant truck apparently is rolling by Sean Payton as he's doing his Zoom meeting or his teleconference there. But he did mention Christian McCaffrey. And listen, McCaffrey's season a year ago was cut short due to injury, and so much of that offense is built around McCaffrey the same way that so much of the Saints offense is built around Alvin Kamara. So it's almost unfair. Look, Teddy Bridgewater was the quarterback a year ago, obviously, and despite when he got injured, so much of that is just built around him. McCaffrey only played 3 games a season ago. And so now you're prepared, and he didn't play neither of the game against the Saints. So now you're preparing again for the Saints with Christian McCaffrey, and here was Sean Payton elaborating a bit on him.
Yeah, look, he does a lot. You got to defend him in space in the passing game. You got to defend him, at the running back position. They hand him the ball. They throw him the ball. He's got great versatility and balance, and you have to really know where he's at on each play and understand how you want to defend him based on his location.
That is going to be a gigantic challenge, and it's one of the reasons that you're thrilled to have Quan Alexander back. And guys like Quan Alexander and C.J. Gardner-Johnson primarily are the guys that you're expecting to go run and cover in space when it's backs coming out of the backfield like McCaffrey. So a huge challenge this week for those guys. So you get them healthy and you roll this week. Sean Payton did also confirm that Bradley Roby, who they acquired last week from the Houston Texans, his suspension is up and he is with the team right now.
He'll start practicing today. He'll start practicing with us today now. So today's our, first day out on the field, and we'll start working him at practice.
So Bradley Roby being back is significant, or being available, I should say, is significant because it coincides with Marshawn Lattimore's injury. And, of course, you'd love for Lattimore to be healthy and available, but it almost is certain that he's not going to play this week after having surgery on his hand. So now you bring in Bradley Roby, and he's going to be your number one boundary corner. So Roby will start this week, I would assume. I can't imagine it going any other way than Roby on one side and very likely Paulson Adebo on the other. And after 1 week, Sean Payton really liked what he saw from the rookie out of Stanford.
Some of the things that we always discuss when we're evaluating players, the one thing that's hard to predict is how quickly they're going to transition into being ready to play, and especially if they miss a season like he had. To his credit, he's picked things up quickly, so I think that helps a lot. And then, there's a confidence level he's playing with, but that's I think one of the harder things to predict in evaluating college players to our level is, you're trying to gauge how quickly the player learns, but there's sometimes it takes a year, sometimes the player comes in right away. And fortunately for us, he's someone that's transitioned into that position pretty smoothly.
It's worth repeating that Paulson Adebo 2 seasons ago was considered a guy that could have been, coming out of 2020, a first-round draft pick. He had that type of buzz around him as a long athletic corner at Stanford. Well, he opted out a season ago, and for a lot of guys, the opt-out hurt. One of the things I think we learned a season ago with the opt-outs is if you're an elite player, if you are Jamar Chase, if you are Micah Parsons, if you are one of those elite top-end players, the opt-out's not going to hurt you. But where there's a little bit of ambiguity and question around a player, if you don't play, you don't put that tape out there, that game film out there, it could very well hurt. I think Paulson Adebo is one of those guys who stood to gain a lot by playing, and by opting out, he dropped in the draft, and potentially this is one of those things where the Saints had a big hit on a middle-round pick because of an opt-out that might have cost them much more draft capital had he played the 2020 season. Another guy who's back, and look, and this is a week where you're going into Carolina, and I mentioned Christian McCaffrey. McCaffrey led the Panthers in receptions this past week. He had 9 catches for 89 yards in their Week 1 win against the Jets. But you got DJ Moore, you got Robbie Anderson. The Saints' corners are going to be challenged in this game. We know it's Joe Brady's offense, and we know Sam Darnold's going to sling it, and Carolina's got good receivers, and Terrace Marshall's there as well. So it's going to be a big challenge for those guys. I'd feel much better about it if Lattimore were playing. I'd feel much better about it if Eric McCoy weren't injured, because I know the old adage Mike D always told us, which is 80% of the time a team loses its starting center, they fail to cover the following week. So that's just ingrained into my brain, and I'm worried about that. But the Saints are still a better team. They're going to have to go prove it. They will have Kenny Stills back as well, and they did confirm that news that Kenny Stills has rejoined the New Orleans Saints, and Sean Payton did talk about bringing the receiver back.
Yeah, so we had a workout yesterday with a handful of players. We signed Kenny, and then each week we'll get a feel for where we're at with our roster. I'm real familiar with him. He's extremely smart. He's a really good transitional player, and I think he'll bring to our group a few things that I think he does very well. And so week to week, we'll see what our vision is relative to the game.
Just as far as one other quick roster note, the Saints, Jaleel Johnson got signed off the practice squad by the Texans. And this does underscore something we talked about yesterday, which is a position that we thought was going to be a position of weakness is all of a sudden a position of strength. When Jaleel Johnson, who 27 years old, former fourth-round draft pick, 54 games played in his career, 20 games start. For perspective, Jaleel Johnson has more experience than all of the Saints' undrafted free agent defensive linemen combined. And he was a practice squad guy that just got signed away by Houston. That's how confident the Saints are in their defensive line right now, and they're still going to get David Onyemata back. They've turned that position of weakness into a position of relative strength. But with Jaleel Johnson being signed away, the Saints currently have 52 of their 53 roster spots available, so they have one roster spot available, and only 14 of the 16 practice squad spots are occupied. So there's going to be some more additions. We'll keep an eye on who, but one more will be added to the active roster, and 2 more available to be added to the practice squad. So when that happens, we'll certainly let you know. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.